Hi, my name is Matthew Lott from the Lott Law Firm, and this video today is going to talk to you about the Guardian Ad Litem process. The Guardian Ad Litem is simply an attorney that's appointed by the court system to investigate custodial type matters, visitation, and those types of things. The custodial process is extremely important to parents. They want to know who's going to have possession, if you will, of the child, and who's going to have visitation rights. And so Mr. Pavlov, who you'll hear from today, is a Guardian Ad Litem who's commonly used by our court system to investigate and talk to children and act on their behalf and in their best interest. And this can be a very confrontational, scary process for a lot of parents. This person also has a lot of power in how they make their determination, and will look at you and look at the other parent or look at the other people that are involved in the case and make a determination about what needs to happen with your children. And so let's hear from Mr. Pavlov now, and he'll talk to you about the things that he's looking for in talking with families and the children involved with those families.
Hello, I'm Matt Pavlov. Matt Lott has asked me to record a short video going over what my job is as a Guardian Ad Litem and to provide some foundations for what you need to look at and how you need to prepare for interacting with a Guardian Ad Litem. The first thing to understand is the nature of my role. By and large, when I'm acting as a Guardian Ad Litem, I am an investigator for the court, and I'll testify as a custody expert. That's probably the best way to understand my role. I'll go out, I'll talk to you, I'll talk to the other party, I'll talk to kids if appropriate, I'll talk to witnesses, I'll review documentation, I'll go through the pleadings, and then I write a report and I make a recommendation as to what I think is in the best interest of the child. I look at the various standards, whether it's a modification, it's an underlying divorce, or it's a termination of parental rights, a grandparent's visits, or sometimes the courts will have specific mandates for me to look at. They'll ask me to do legal research and then testify to my understanding of the law. But more often than not, I'm basically a custody investigator and expert. I'll be cross-examined and testify and all that sort of thing. And so I try and give as much information in my reports as possible, which means when you meet with me, you want to provide me with as much information as you can. That being said, it's important to understand that what I'm most concerned about is the best interest of the child. And in my mind, what I'm looking for is stability and normalcy. In these situations, things are very competitive. Something has gone wrong if I'm involved. So emotions are heightened in your view of your ex or the grandparents or whoever the other party is. Well, it often blinds people to what outsiders will see as normal behavior. I like the people I'm in front of to focus on what they think is best for their children and to steer away from just bad-mouthing or laying on adult problems that don't actually impact the children. You may think it's going to gain traction, and occasionally it will, because sometimes things are important. But more often than not, if you're focusing more on your ex than on the kids, you're walking the wrong direction when speaking with me. I'm interested in some baseline information to start out. In pretty much all of the cases I have, we're looking at the best interest of the child, which means the Albright factors are going to play some role in it. And that's a good guidepost for what you need to bring when you see me. There will be the big issues. Oftentimes there'll be drugs or drinking or violence or some other sort of scandalous behavior, some neglecting the child, doing nutty things around the kids and that sort of thing. And that makes the heart of the matter. But beyond that, we need to look at who you are and how you can best provide for the child. Because that's really what it is. You're not competing against no one. You're competing against your ex. And it's not just about whatever happened to bring you to court, but the entire picture. So I'm interested in things like, is the kid going to school every day? Does the kid make good grades? Are they working on it? If they have learning disabilities or struggle, have you invested in tutoring? Have you invested in an IEP? Do you know the names of the teachers? Are you in contact with the teachers that are struggling? That stuff matters as a baseline because it means the child is likely flourishing in your care or not. Or if the other party has primary custody, that may be a concern. They're not going to school on time. They're missing multiple days. They are falling way behind the other parent is not addressing some sort of need, and perhaps you've brought up that need in a polite way to the other party and tried to address that need and tried to co-parent. That's a big thing. Fussing back and forth with your ex almost never looks good. It always looks like you're being immature. So what we want to do is show that you're trying to handle things like a normal adult, someone that's not in the chancery court, who has not hired the attorney. If I'm dealing with the problem with my children, me and my wife talk about it, and we think about what's best for our kids first and foremost, and we try and be constructive and build our way towards real resolutions. And I expect that to at least be the effort on the part of whoever's trying to get custody of their kids. So that's a big thing. Does the kid go to sports? Is he overextended? Does the kid hate sports? Those sort of things. Are you addressing the needs for the child in a way that benefits who the child is? Because the community record for the child matters too. I want to know if you're employed. If you are not employed, are you looking for a job, or why aren't you working? Those things are big deal things. You might be remarried and you might be a stay-at-home mom now or a stay-at-home dad. Well, that's fine. But you need to explain how that works and how that works for your lifestyle. There's no judgment there, but I need to understand how it goes, because again, I want to see, are you a normal person who thinks about their kids first and foremost, like everyone else that's not in the chancery court should do? If you've recently lost a job, why'd you lose the job? What are you doing to address it? If you've had drug issues, which happens an awful lot here, are you sober-minded about the reality you're dealing with? Are you hiding from it? Are you downplaying it? If you come into my office and describe yourself as a casual meth user, that is not going to go well. These big identifiable problems should be addressed by you first and foremost. If you know that you are going to be caught smoking meth or doing some other drugs, have you given it up? Have you gone and done demonstrable things that show me that you're taking it seriously? You may not think you need NA or rehab or AA or going to a therapist or whatnot, but if you're in front of the chancery court, if you're talking to me, we need to know that you're taking it seriously. It's not the end of the world if you get help. If you have mental health problems, the only thing I can ask from you is to address it. So if you're prone to depression, are you on medication? Are you seeing a therapist? Have you talked about it with your doctor? If so, I can't hold it against you. In fact, I'll think you're responsible for addressing it in an adult-like manner. Similarly, again, if you've fallen into drug addiction, if you go to NA and you can show that you're going every single week or multiple times a week, then I can tell the court, it certainly looks like this person is taking this seriously. They are trying to address this issue, and so we should continue moving forward. There's a lot of stick and carrot in the chancery court. If you mess up, well, things aren't going to go well. You'll lose time with your kids. You might end up with supervised visitation. You might lose custody of your kid. But if you then do the right things and continue to work to show that you are going to put your kids first from this point forward, well, then you will get rewarded. You will get more time with your kids. You may never get exactly what you want, but you won't lose them. What I want to see is dedication to your children and being the best parent that you can be. You can't change mistakes that you've made. Once they've happened, but you can address them in a way that does not make them worse and hopefully makes them better and demonstrates you recognize the reality you're in front of. Let's see, if I'm going to talk to your kids, how do you prepare your kids for talking with me? By and large, I'll talk to your kids at school. I prefer to go to independent locations so that neither parent can say, oh, well, this parent was in their ear, so that's why they said this. And the truth is, you don't need to prep them up that much. You can tell them someone may come talk to you, and to be honest, they're looking out for your best interest, but we don't want you talking about the case with them over and over again. We want the child to be as spared from the ugliness of the court system as possible. That's one of the benefits of having a guardian ad litem. I can go and talk about what the children told me and spare them from having to come into court and say this or this about mom or dad. And more importantly, if they're living with one parent or the other, part of my job is to kind of filter through inconsistencies or areas where I see alienation or coaching and that sort of thing, and I will pick it up, and the court will pick it up. And if neither of us do, one of the lawyers will certainly ask about it. So don't coach them. Just tell them to tell the truth. A normal parent just wants their kid to be okay. A normal parent doesn't want them to lie, doesn't want them to overextend things or overstate things and that stuff, because it will come back and bite you in the butt. By and large, with little kids, I'm going to ask them innocuous questions. I want to know, what's it like in the household? What do they do with their parents for fun? What do they like about their parents? And kind of just get a sense of who they are. The younger they are, the less questions I'm going to ask them, because again, they're sweeter, they're more innocent, they're also more prone to coaching and to trying to confirm what they think I want to hear or what they think their mom and dad wants them to say. And so we kind of dance around some of the subject matters. Now, typically, the truth will come out of these kids and they'll tell you what's happened. But I try and walk a pretty gentle way, but if you coach them up, especially with little kids, it will be obvious. For older kids, they can speak for themselves. What you don't want your older kids to do is to be immature in what they're asking. Oftentimes I'll see parents who become so focused on what their tween or teen wants that they'll lose sight that other people outside of them might see that immature. If I have a kid who complains about, I don't know, their dad making them go to bed at midnight, I'm going to roll my eyes and say that sounds like good parenting. Or mom refuses to let me use social media. That also sounds like decent parenting, and it certainly falls within the realm of a parent gets to discipline and control what their child sees. But what those things tell me when a kid brings that up is that the actual issues that you may have presented to me are far less important than these piddly issues that kids become obsessed with, all right? But other than that, like if things have actually happened in the home, once again, your message to them is tell them the truth. You have to tell them what happened. We don't have to talk about it, but when you talk to Mr. Pavlov, tell him what you think he needs to know. And if they want to tell me kind of this piddly stuff too, that's fine. You don't have to steer them away from it, but that is, I will take it as kids being kids and kids being kind of self-interested. They're allowed to be self-interested. But truthfully, you don't need to prep your kids up that much to talk to me, other than to tell them that I may come talk to them, tell me the truth. Tell me what they think I need to hear. And that's all you have to do. Other than that, I'll ferret the information out of it. Now, sometimes you'll have kids that are more scarred by things or have more trouble like getting things out. If that's the case, what I'm going to recommend is that they go talk to a professional, a therapist of some sort, and have the therapist help them kind of cope with what's going on with them and help them bring out the truth as best we can. Because I'm a lawyer and I do this all the time, but if it's that complicated, I want to get them to a professional. If you see your kid is struggling, you probably want to go ahead and bring them to a counselor anyways. Anytime that you're actually in a litigious custody battle, it's already hard on the kids. They are little vibe sponges. They will understand your stress. They won't understand it, but they will feel it. They'll feel the other parent's stress, and it'll stress them out. They may blame themselves. They may blame you. They may blame something else, but their little brains aren't quite built for the maturity it takes to contextualize everything. So a therapist can help them do that and give them a safe space outside of you or your mom and dad or uncles or friends who are all biased in one way or the other towards them. So the therapist can help bring these things out in a safer environment. You need to find a good therapist the kid likes, but you also don't want to be therapist shopping. You may not like what the kid says to the therapist or what the therapist reports. That's okay. You should listen to it and you should adjust your behavior accordingly. Insisting that things are one way when they are obviously not that way, that does not help you. Even a little bit, it does not help you. Take things as they are. Be honest with what's happening around you, what situation you are, and address it from there. Don't pretend it's not that. Don't pretend, well, he's got an issue, my ex has issues, but I have no issues if you do. Don't pretend that's the case because it's not going to help you. If you're going to bring things from my office to see, I'm interested in seeing text messages and things like that that substantiate your claims. And that can be two ways. Text messages may show good co-parenting by you. They may be, hey, so-and-so is happening, do you mind if we switch up, or you can have this extra time or whatever, or what are we going to do about this? You talking to the other parent about how to handle things with your kids in a polite, kind way, that reflects well on you. If the other parent acts like a jackass on the way back, so be it. Let them show their true colors, but don't get caught losing yourself because emotions run high. That'll help. Similarly, if the other party has said nutty things to you, that may help me. One thing that usually does not help me is you recording you talking to your children. Very, very, very seldom does that benefit anybody. It'll look like you're coaching them. It'll look like you're trying to talk about the litigation with them, and it will never look organic. On rare occasions it's helpful, but by and large, if you find yourself recording your child talking about the ex, it's going to make you look like immature and like you're trying to game the system and you're not putting your kids first. Your kids should be spared from as much of the litigation as you can possibly spare them. Situations will arise that won't spare them and they'll have to be involved with it, but let me talk to them about it. What you should do is educate me on what I need to ask these kids, what they've seen, what they've heard, what the things they've witnessed to or the things that concern them. You can communicate that to me, but don't record them saying it. It's just not going to help. Similarly, don't send me long, drawn-out, ranty emails. You almost guaranteed will tell me too much in an emotional way that makes you sound crazy or unhinged, and it won't benefit you. Being confessional to me does not help, especially in written form. The way you think it comes off is very unlikely to come off that way to me. So you want to be short and to the point because your primary focus is not the litigation. Your primary focus is being a parent. Your primary focus is taking care of your kids. If you have to note things to me, nice and short and just the facts, Jack. Don't go into all these emotions and these feelings because you'll end up telling on yourself. That's what happens almost every single time. As I said earlier, other things I like to have is grades, attendance, awards, things about the teams they're on, the things that you do with your child that have nothing to do with the litigation. How you spend time with your child matters to me. If spanking has been an issue, you better be able to speak clearly about what's happened. And if you're letting the step-parent discipline the child, you better stop. Never a good idea. Because it's going to be a thing that will be an issue and they will latch on to, especially physical discipline. Now, if you and the other parent have talked in a way that how we're all going to work together and you have a blended family and the stepdaddy or stepmama is beloved and they handle things in an appropriate way, that may be okay, but the chances are, if you're talking to me, that is not the case. So I'd back off on the corporal punishment as much as possible, especially with much older kids. I would definitely not be using belts or fly swatters or spoons or any other object if you insist upon physically disciplining your child. You'll find CPS in your life and it just won't look good. Don't let stepdaddy or boyfriend hit your kids whatsoever. It's going to backfire. Similarly, vet the people you're living with. If your boyfriend or girlfriend is a criminal, they need to go. If they are a child abuser, they need to go. If they are a sex abuser, they need to go. If you come into my office and you are living and standing up for someone who is a child abuser or a sex criminal, you're going to lose your kids. Don't pick your partner over your children. If your partner loves you, they will take the steps necessary to help you get your kids back. They will be honest about their position in your life and do the best thing for your children, which is the best thing for you. If that means going to therapy themselves, if that means voluntarily moving out for a while and taking a step back, if that means attending AA or NA or doing those things, they should do that, because if they don't, you will be held responsible for their behavior. Do not bring danger into your kids' lives. If you've brought danger into your kids' lives, you're going to be held responsible. If you move in with somebody and you're like, oh, I didn't know that they were an ex-con, I didn't know that they have multiple domestic violence charges against them, it's not an excuse. You will be held responsible for that. And at that point, if you've made that mistake, the best thing to do is cut ties and fix it. Again, you can't fix what you've already done, but you can change how you do things moving forward. And once again, if your boyfriend or girlfriend or husband refuses to change their behavior and take real concrete steps to show that they are not who they are being portrayed to be, they don't love you enough to stay with you. They're going to cost you your kids. Let's see. Focus on being normal. Focus on being stable. Give me a list of witnesses who can back you up. Know who your witnesses are and how they're going to talk about you. Be clear about your faults and failings, but don't be just straight up confessional about it and lament because you're sad about things. Be careful how you speak because, again, you want to look like you are in a good state of mind, stable and capable of raising children. A person that's going to put their children first, who's going to do what is necessary to provide for their children. Don't come into my office complaining about paying child support. It'll fall on deaf ears and make you look like you don't really care about your kids. Don't come into my office and complain about things that happened between your ex during the divorce. Sometimes that'll have some context about repeated behavior, about domestic violence, but more often than not, especially if you have an agreed judgment where you agreed to the custodial relationship, you can't undo those things. And you say, oh, he was this monster then and all that sort of thing. What I'm going to say is, well, you gave him 50-50 custody. How bad could he possibly be? That speaks to your judgment more than their judgment. Now, the facts may be the facts, and I'll look into everything with open eyes and whatnot, but realize your position. Play the hand you're dealt. Don't act like you'd have different cards. You know, be honest and straightforward, be prepared, follow up with me. All right, if things happen, you don't gotta be calling me every day and reporting every little thing. But for example, if your kids do something that you're proud of, shoot me an email and tell them that this happened. That's good news. Check in and ask, is there anything else you need from me? Be proactive. Don't wait for me to call you. Once I've been assigned and Matt gives you my number, call. If you wait for me to call you, I'm going to assume you're not that serious about everything. If you are at risk of losing your children or your children going to somebody that you consider dangerous and you can't bother to call me and set up an appointment and be proactive about it, how serious can you possibly be? Do the things that are necessary. I work and don't get paid fairly often, but I will tell you, paying my fees in a prompt manner shows you're serious about it and you're willing to make sacrifices for your kids. People don't like that. They think that's, oh, well, it's unfair, I have to pay. But know what it shows? That you're an adult who pays their bills, that wants to do things proactive and wants to make a good impression. It's like meeting your future in-laws for the first time. If you go there and you know you're going to have to make a good impression on these people and you act like a jackass, well, that's what they're going to think of you for the rest of the time. But if you go and you are polite and you make conversation, bring a bottle of wine or flowers or whatever it is, to show that you at least care enough to try to impress them, well, they're going to think better of you. It's kind of the same thing with me. I do look at everything with as open eyes as possible, and people try and charm me and soft pedal things and downplay things all the time, and I'll catch on to it, but I will also remember they're trying. As long as they're not lying straight up to me, but if you're trying to do the right thing, that matters probably more than anything else, especially if you're in a bad position, especially if you are the parent who they're trying to take custody from, trying to suspend visitation. This goes back to what I said earlier. Don't lie about your position. Don't act like it's not what it is. Instead, take proactive steps moving forward to show that's not who you are. If you've made a mistake, do what you can to show that this was a mistake, not a habit. If you've been arrested for domestic violence, your fault or not, show that you understand that you put yourself in a position for this to happen, one way or the other, and take the appropriate steps to show that this is not you, that you are not the person who's beating up people or getting in fights all the time, that you understand there's a problem and you are going to remedy it yourself with help from others. Don't just say, I'm going to cure myself, because also you don't have demonstrable proof that you're being serious about it. You may end up being clean and sober for years, maybe, but if you just tell me you are, I'm not going to really believe you, and I'm not going to be convinced you have the tools to stay sober. People will stay sober for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year, and then fall right back into bad habits if they don't build up the tools necessary and have the foundation necessary to avoid that habit. If you have people in your life who are bringing you down, who bring drugs and alcohol, bring out the worst in you, cut them out. They're going to end up taking your kids from you. Those are the things you have to do. It all comes back to stability. It all comes back to being a grown-up, an adult who puts their children first. If you're not putting your children first, you are not going to end up in a good position. If you consistently put your children first, even if that means doing things that are hard for you or embarrassing for you or make you feel bad about yourself, but you know it's the best thing to do, choose the high road. Do the right thing. It will pay off. It may not pay off with all your dreams coming true and getting full custody of your kids and whatnot, because that's not how this works. But it will pay off with you getting your kids and to see your kids, because the consequence of not doing that, maybe you don't get to see your kids for months, for years, only with your mama there supervising or at a supervision center. Or even if you clear it all up, CPS will be back in your life shortly thereafter, or I'll be back in your life shortly thereafter when you mess up again and your ex sues you again. Long-term thinking, responsible adult. Get up and go to work every day. Work hard. Pay your bills on time. Spend time with your kids. Tell your kids you love them. Go to their events. Know who their teachers are. Keep up with their teachers. Don't do it in a showy way because you're in court and whatnot, but do it because you mean it. It'll show one way or the other if you mean it or not. If you are having mental health problems or you find yourself anxious and overwhelmed, get yourself help. Not a big deal. I will think highly of you if you've addressed your problems and you're handling things correctly. Because remember, the context matters. I'm having to go talk to a therapist. I have been fighting with my ex, or we've gone through yada, 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 all this PTSD stuff for years. And so now I'm going to get help because I want to be the best mom or dad I can be. That's a mature thing to do. And that's what I'm looking for, stability and maturity. I think that really covers everything I look into. Matt will tell you that I'm pretty tough on people and I'm not that nice and that sort of thing. I think I am, but I will tell you the truth. So that's the last thing I'll tell you. When I talk to you and I tell you my opinion, I'm not doing it to hurt your feelings. I'm not doing it to put you down. I'm doing it to help you. But I'll tell you exactly how I see things. I have been wrong in the past and I'll be wrong a lot in the future. I'm wrong a lot, but at least you'll know what I'm looking for. So don't just ignore it. If I say it looks like this and you're like, no, it doesn't, well, what you know is how I see it. And so address it accordingly. Mr. Pavlov thinks that the way I'm behaving here indicates yada, yada, yada. Well, I disagree with him. Well, keep doing what you're doing and see how it turns out. Talk to your lawyer about it. Matt's a really good lawyer and he'll give you really good advice and I'll try and keep you in line because we both realize how emotional all of these things are. I know that when it comes to your kids and your ex and the long history between you and all the hurt feelings and all the betrayals and all the failures and disappointments, it can get the best of you. It can. But you can't have it keep getting the best of you. Making a mistake once or twice, you have to take active steps to remedy it. And that's what it is. So talk to your lawyer. Talk about what you're going to talk to me about. Help get Matt or Amanda or whoever's at his office to help you go through your evidence and how to present it to me. That'd be helpful. If you come in organized and ready to talk honestly and openly with me, you'll make a good impression. Don't worry about some things, social things with you. If you don't have a lot of money, that's okay. If you have tons of money, I'm not going to care about that much either. What I'm going to care about is how you're treating your kids. So don't think I'll be impressed by you being rich. Don't think I'll be disappointed by you being poor. I don't care about that. If I come to your home, clean up. It doesn't have to be perfect. You got little kids. Man, you go to my house right now, there are toys all over the place. There's probably dishes in the sink because we got little kids. I'm not worried about that, but do make some effort. If you're smoking cigarettes, smoke outside, get rid of the smell, I'll notice. If you put effort in to put your best foot forward, that tells me you care. It also tells me you're capable of doing things. And so I think that covers it. Welcome me into your home, and take it around. Don't worry too much about those things because the things that you think I'm going to be concerned about, solid chance I won't. What I'm concerned about, do you love your kids? Are you putting your kids first? If you have issues, are you addressing them in an adult way to show that you're serious about being the best you can be for your kids? That's it. Everything else is laying you out.